Hi, this is Tom, the gas guy from Delaware. It's a little after 10 o'clock at night on Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day, or my respects to all the servicemen and women who fought or served their country. Without them, you and I wouldn't have the right to free speech, wouldn't have a lot of rights. We'd probably be living somewhere like Cuba, where you're allowed to buy a cell phone but you can't afford it. I just have a question for everybody. See if maybe I'm going crazy. We had a big discussion right before the election about a bailout. John McCain wanted to use $300 billion of the $700 billion given to Mr. Paulson to distribute as he saw fit to help the financial crisis, which was affecting the entire world, starting with the mortgages. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, if anybody remembers those names, probably forgot them by now. And we were told that the reason for the financial crisis was that mortgages were made with no respect to the fact of whether or not the people could repay them. Principal parties were Chris Dodd from Connecticut and the lovely Barney Frank from Massachusetts, who were in charge of the committees or senior ranking members at various times of those committees, and had pushed for more and more mortgages to be given to people that could not afford them. And if I remember correctly, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac went way beyond normalcy and bundled all these bad mortgages together with good mortgages and sold them to investment banks to get more money to do the same thing over and over and over again. And people bought these bonds thinking they were backed by the United States government, and lo and behold, they were backed by paper, air, and BS. And of course, in Washington, D.C., I think they have the patent on to being the center of the universe for BS. So then I hear that all of a sudden the United States government owns an insurance company. And they give the insurance company, I don't know how many $1 billion. And the first thing that the executives in the insurance company do is take a little vacation in California and spend $500,000 on golf, massages, and entertainment. So people raise hell about that, and oh, that goes away. Well, no, it doesn't. AIG just asked for another $150 billion. And then they went to another resort using assumed names, similar to the way that Bonnie and Clyde and the various gangs in the 30s used fictitious names when they registered somewhere so that the people wouldn't know who they were. And they spent another God knows how many $100,000 on another party. And they gave themselves raises and they gave bonuses and they did one thing and another. I don't remember hearing them say they were helping out the little guy, you and me, with our mortgages, which was supposed to be the basis and reason for the whole problem to begin with. So now we hear that since Barack Obama, the Democrats, been elected, Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid are in the catbird seat. Nancy Pelosi has decided that it would be a good thing if we gave a few $100 billion to General Motors and Ford. I don't think they had any mortgages on their houses. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's where the mortgages really were. But I believe the American people have been hoodwinked yet once again, and I believe that you and I should call and write our congressmen and senators. Of course, my senator here in Delaware, we have two. One of them's name's Biden, and You already know how I feel about him. The other one, you may not know, his name's Tom Carper. The reason you may not know him is that they have to put an exit sign on his office door so he knows how to get out of his office in the evening to go home. And I think sometimes they forget about him, and he might spend weeks in his office before someone leads him out by the hand. Kind of reminds me of Homer Simpson. So I don't expect any help from Delaware. We only have one Congressman, Mike Castle, and he doesn't seem to want to put his toe in the water of honesty and straightforward talk in the Congress because he's a Republican, and I think he's more worried about keeping his mouth shut and keeping his job than he is about saying, hey, what about the folks? What about the mortgages that the folks have that created this mess to start with? If, in fact, that's true. Is that a lie? Is it not true? I mean, they're giving hundreds of millions of dollars away, but you and I aren't getting any of it. The mortgages aren't being taken care of. The housing crisis, which was brought about by the mortgage crisis, is in turmoil and flux. There's no bottom to the housing market prices. There's no bottom to the mortgage crisis. And until there is, well, there will be no recovery. If you can't find a bottom to the prices of houses, there's no incentive to build new ones. You don't have any idea if you're going to get your money back if you build one, if you're a construction company. That was what we were told, unless my memory's totally gone, and I just can't remember anything anymore. But I believe that's what we were told. The mortgage crisis and the housing crisis were the root of all evil, and that they would be addressed by Mr. Paulson being able to spend $700 billion to save our asses. Well, that hasn't happened. And from watching the news tonight, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think they don't really give a damn about you and me. I mean, I don't know if that's a revelation to any of you, but it's not to me. I expected it from the beginning. But it's starting to tick me off because I've got money in my retirement account, and I've lost a ton of money in the past year. And until someone puts the skids on these manipulators on Wall Street, you and I might be losing our ass, but let me guarantee you there's people making hundreds of millions of dollars every day by manipulating the stock market. Cox isn't doing a thing about that at the Securities Exchange Commission. Paulson doesn't give a damn about the mortgage and home building problem. They seem more worried about Ford and General Motors. And I want you all to do a little research and find out how many car companies there used to be in this country in 1950. Just take 1950, the number of manufacturers. And I think there's 10 or 15 that are no longer in existence. And people come and go all the time. You ride down the street and you see a shoe store, Joe Shoes. 6-7 months later you go by and it's Mary's Clothing Store. Joe Shoes is out of business. That's the way things happen. If you don't make a profit and you're too stupid to make a profit, or you make bad judgments, you're going to go out of business. And that's what General Motors and Ford and Chrysler have done. They made bad judgments, bad decisions, so they want us to give the same idiots that made those mistakes more money. Well, how about us idiots that are in a mortgage crisis and a housing crisis, and we're losing money every day in the stock market and on our houses, and there's no end in sight? I think we need to call our congressman. You need to write them a letter. You need to let yourself be heard. You need to speak up and say, stop the bullshit. Pay the mortgages. Pay off the average Joe. Give him the help, not Mr. Ford or Mr. General Motors. Let them sink or swim on their own, just as the airlines do on what seems to be a daily basis. Thank you, and God bless America.